weekend, all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your weekend edition of your SPDR ETF stock market wrap-up for this January 4th, 2025. Well, interesting weekend, obviously. You know what's going on with Venezuela by this point in time. And Maduro and his wife are in U.S. custody in the United States. But it opens up many doors. I mean, what does this tell China? Go after the straits that you think are still under your control? What's the reaction going to be to that? What about Taiwan? It just opens up a whole door. Was this the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do? I haven't the slightest idea. I'm not a politician. I'll leave that up to the other people. But all eyes tonight will be on the energy market and the metals. How do they react to what's going on? Does it have an impact on other markets? Well, in the end, you know, if you can get Venezuela's vast reserves of oil up and running again, sure it does. It's one of the elements of inflation, and that could change the OPEC outlook. Don't know. OPEC is meeting today, so we'll see what that does. We do in the morning have the ISM manufacturing index coming out at 9 a.m. So I think that's going to be important. The analysts are looking for a 48.3 reading versus last month's 48.2. And at the end of this, I'm going to talk to you about 40% off. Yes, at the beginning of the year, I hold a research and course sale. So all my stuff is deeply discounted, and this is the best discounts typically of the year. So I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. Now, obviously, on people's minds will be, what's the January effect on the stock market? The Santa Claus rally has until the close of business Monday to work or not work. Will this be the third year in a row where it doesn't work? What's the importance of all that? I put a chart together in my full research package for my research subscribers, and I show you the different parts of the market, different ones that people look at, and what the probability is and how it impacts the market going forward. And I'll cover that there. I'll leave it well enough be. So let's take a look at the emerging markets. And as you could see, they came up for the week. The last high had been 56.31. You're challenging that high right now. When you look at the swing line on the weekly charts, you've got higher lows, higher highs. That's a bullish chart pattern. When we look at EEM in terms of where it's at in relation to key moving averages, the 18-week, the 100, and the 200, it's overall 3 and supports back at 53.88. And the Bollinger Band is just above the market at 56.62. And the importance of that is, if you take a look at chart action, you rarely stay outside of the Bollinger Bands, very rare. So 95% of the market time, it trades within them. So yes, it can go up from here, but we're looking another 40 cents higher is where the resistance really begins. On the other hand, a welcome break would be to go back to the 18-week average and try to pick the market up potentially there if it weren't an overbought condition, which it is on a weekly chart. So how you correct that on a weekly chart is the market either embeds like it did here when the red and the blue go sideways over 80, but that can take another 3 weeks to accomplish, or it corrects from here. So we'll see which one it wants to do. When we look at gap, you can see how the market's falling back. The last break low had been 25.21. We've taken that out. So the odds favor now that you're going to make a run towards the 18-week average of closes, maybe even the 100-week, 2400 to 2274. And the market has stepped out of that bullish pattern that it had in momentum. Lululemon is now overbought into the upper Bollinger Band. It sort of is gluing itself to it, as you can see. And as that happens, you start forcing this band to come up. It may or may not embed, but there's certainly a turnaround story here on the chart. And on the chart, I have to think that you got to treat this as a very important low in that turnaround story for them. Rivian came out with news over the weekend, and they did not have a good quarter in terms of manufacturing. They expected this. They expected that as the tax credits fell, so would their sales. They are banking heavily on their new car, which will be out, they hope, in June. and it'll be about a $45,000 entry level, and that will go head on against the Tesla. And from what they think, they are a beater of the Tesla. They will have 1, 2, and 3 motors choices for you to choose from on that car too. So that's going to get very interesting for them. So I view this market as long-term still very bullish. They and Tesla have been left in the United States as the main electric vehicle cars. In rocket, so now the market has come alive with it. The question is, what's housing going to do this year? What are mortgages going to do? There's an appetite out there to buy homes, but it's the affordability at 6% mortgage plus. Does that turn the people off? We're about to find out. In Home Depot, they just can't get a turnaround story to come their way. The market's got higher highs, lower lows. It's very oversold, but it's certainly not in the bull camp. Uber's been having a heck of a pullback in the market as of recent. It's bounced over the past 2 weeks, but is that enough to get it away from being oversold? Actually, I have 2 of those there. Being oversold, that's the first thing. And on rallies, I don't get away from the idea that 90.64 is still a big resistance area, and that's about $7 and change higher. In FedEx, certainly a turnaround story. And it began in March of 2025, and the market has really taken off since then. Remember, this is when they were losing lots of business and other pieces and scaling back, getting costs under control. In XLI, so now we get to the industrial sector, and for all purposes, you're at highs for the year from last year. I mean, you came up there this week, and so this market's getting a nice little boost in it. In the State Street Energy, you can see how the market's playing right through here. The key moving average, the 18-week and the 100-week, both in play. Now, here's something very important on this. How is this going to react to Venezuelan oil eventually and sooner rather than later coming to the market? And why do I say that? Well, since the U.S. has now gotten involved and we're running it, why would we keep sanctions on their oil? If they want to sell it on the open market, wouldn't that be there? I would think so, and they want to get the money legitimately put back into Venezuela's coffers. I don't understand our president getting behind Delcy Rodriguez. If anything, she seems very adamant against Trump. And I have to think that, I don't know how honest she is or not, but she was part of the Maduro regime. She was part of Hugo Chavez. A lot. Where does that come in to benefit the U.S.? I was quite surprised that he said he's gotten behind her. I don't understand that, but there's always things you don't understand. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see the opening on the energy markets tonight and how they do it. Remember, you're years away from rebuilding the infrastructure, but that doesn't mean that oil that they just shut off can't be turned back on, and they can get up a good amount of oil even as they stand. And I would think that the U.S. wants that to occur now. When we look at the dollar, you've got the higher high, lower low, and a bounce. You've really gone from the upper Bollinger Band to the lower Bollinger Band. It's a bounce in the dollar, but I don't see much more than that. It'll be interesting tonight in the gold. Will gold get a bid or an offer off of this news? Because now our ships that were there, we know what they've done. We know that the mission is this level of the mission is complete. I don't know that we'll have boots on the ground there. I think that we'll do everything to avoid that. But a phase has ended. And last but not least, if industrial goods are good, when we saw that ETF, why wouldn't copper be good? So I'm thinking that copper on this pullback is going to offer a buying opportunity. The question will be where? It's already got the embedded reading, so it's already on my hit parade to come back into the market on a good pullback, and that's what I'm looking for. I see nothing that has changed in the copper output that is bearish for these markets. Now, 40% off. Yep. 1 month futures, 1 month spider, or 3 months for $30. I mean, why wouldn't you just jump on these and do them and give it yourself a try with them? I think you'll be very surprised. You can get both for $60 instead of $99. And then We also have our courses and 1 year's subscription. So instead of, as an example, a 1 year complete futures, all right, was normally $600. Now it's $360. This is the best deal of the year you're going to get. So if you'd like to try this out, you go with it and you take it together and you see where you're at. So let's see what we do here. Let's see how this all works for you, where it's at. How do you get this? You move your cursor to the top is one way. You'll see an icon or one over here on the YouTube channel, or you just go to iraepstein.com. The word is research. It's on the top. Give it a click. You don't need a coupon. Everything's in there and it's all explained for the pricing for you. You can always call my staff during the weekdays, not on Sunday, and they will be happy to get hold of you. I'm Ira Epstein. You have yourself a great rest of the weekend, and I'll catch up with you all in the morning on Monday. Take care.